In this third tutorial about MathGraph JavaScript version, I show you some more features of frames. First, I create a point, a free point. I name M on the fly. Then, with this tool, I can create a line through slope. I click on M. Then I give the slope. If I want now to modify the slope of this line, I click on this tool, Graphical Object Modification. I click on the line and I can modify the slope. Now I create a line by 2 points and I want to measure the slope of this line. So I use this tool, Slope Measure. I click on the line and I give a name to this measure, for instance M. If I want now in blue to display the slope of this line, I use this tool, Value Display. I click on the spot and I choose to display the value of M with, for instance, 3 digits. Starting string M equals 2, background erase. Now if I move my points, I see my slope changing. Now I create a new figure. I want to create an asteroid. Now with this tool, Linking Point, I create a point linked to this line. With this tool, I create a circle with center O going through the last point. Then a point linked to this circle, name M. With this tool, I move the name around the point. Now I want to create the perpendicular projected points of M on each axis, so I use this tool. First I click on the x-axis, then on M. I name this point on the fly P. Second time I click on this line on M, name on the fly Q. I move the name around the point. Then I activate the dotted line style. I click on this tool segment and I create these segments. Now I activate the continuous line style and I create this segment, PQ. Again, projected point. I click on the segment, then on M. Name of this point N. And I create this segment. Now I want to create an angle mark, so I use this tool and I click on M and P. Now I want to mark a point for trace. I use this tool, Mark a Point for Trace. I click on point N. Okay. Then I click on this icon. And now with the Capture tool, I can move the point M and I see the trace of N. Now I deactivate the trace mode and I want to create a point locus. So in blue, 2 pixels of width, I use this icon, point locus, through linked point. I must click on the point, traces of which will generate the locus. I click on N. Now I click on the linked point generating the locus M. For instance, 500 positions, close locus. Now I want to create 3 macros. I expand this toolbar and I click on this tool, Macros Creation. I want to create a macro unmasking object. So I click on the top left corner of the figure. Title, unmask, Astroid, background erase. I choose background color, this one, and I click. Now I must click on the objects the macro will unmask. I click on the point locus. Then I click on the stop button. I want to create a macro masking the same objects as the first one, so I use again this tool and I choose masking macro from another macro. Okay, I click here under the first one, title masking Astroid, background erase, background color same, and the macro here is selected. Okay, just the right color. Okay, I can move the title of the macro. If I click on this tool, macro execution, then I click on the macro is executed. Now I want to create a macro of animation with trace, so once again I use this tool and I choose animation macro with trace. First I click under the other macros, title for instance animation. I choose 400 points here and frequency this one, background erase, and the same background color as before. Okay, now I must click on the blinking point to get animated, so it's M. Now I must click on the objects that will generate a trace. I click on point N. It is the only object, so I click on the stop button. And now if I click on the macro execution tool, I click on masking Astroid and I click on animation. I click on the figure to stop the animation. If I want to modify the macro, I just click on this tool on the macro and I can choose, for instance, to change the frequency. Done. Now with this tool I make the Astroid visible. And I want to create an object locus of segment PQ when the point M is turning around the circle. So first I activate this color and I expand this toolbar and I expand this toolbar and I choose this tool. First I click on segment PQ. Then I must click on the linked point M, generating the point locus. Let's start with 40 values. I've got my object locus. I can move this point. If I want now to change the number of objects of the locus, I click on this tool, graphical object modification. I click on the object locus. And for instance, I can choose 80 values. Now I want my cursor to be dynamic. I use this tool, cursor. I click here. I choose big size, cursor with step, with graduations, mini value 20, maxi value 200, step of the cursor 10, step of graduation 20, name of the calculation n, starting string n equals 2, space. OK. Now, if I move this point, the values of n are changing. But if I click on this tool, graphical object modification, and I click on the object locus, I click then on value, I can see the value of n. The explanation is that n was defined after the object locus. So the object locus is not allowed to use n value. So I click on this tool, modify numerical object, and I click on N, and then I click on reclass towards beginning. OK, I close the dialog box. Now I activate this tool. I click on the object locus. I click on values and I see N in the list. So I choose to use N. OK. Now my object locus is dynamic. If I move this point, the number of objects is updated. Thank you for watching this video and enjoy MathGraph.